Hey, good afternoon. This is Trader Tim from over at eminimind.com doing a Monday market analysis video for the 14th of December 2020. The first thing this morning here on the ES that I noticed was that the breadth was not very strong. We were sitting actually pretty close to 1 to 1 while we were, you know, trading up and making new highs. So we had the big gap up and then we moved higher from there, and the breadth was just not very strong. Um, and so that was a little bit of a red flag for me this morning. I wanted to run through the ES trades here. And so the first one was at about 20 minutes after the bell. I actually went for a long in a continuation of the uptrend. And so, like I said, I was a little skeptical, but the trend at the time was up, so I wasn't going to uh, fight what I was seeing on the chart. But as I get to the second trade, you'll be able to see where that breadth and advanced decline line came into play. So this one kind of sat at the 50% for a little while, but then it did eventually make it to its negative 23% target. And then just by trailing the next retracement, like so, bring the stop up. And then we broke out into new highs once again. Same thing, bring the stop up underneath the 61.8. And so that was good for a few points. And then we came down and broke the swing low here. And then at that point, we were beyond the 30-minute mark. And so this gray line is the high of the first 30-minute range. And so we were sitting right on top of that. We fell down into the 30-minute range then below. We'll just call that a price level or support at that time, then became resistance. So I ended up taking the short, and really nice looking setup. We broke back into the first 30-minute range, had that weaker breath, but I was taken out before we made the bigger sell-off. And at that second dip, we kind of got this fake out here where we drifted higher for actually quite a while after that. But then when we did fall back into the first 30-minute range, we didn't really get a clean setup to go short again. We have the full halfway back that traded down here, and so that prevented me from taking the short because at that point we were looking like, well, we're at the halfway back long. Um, we'll see if we get a retracement. We actually did not break the 61.8, so the long off of the 50% wasn't in play. The short was met with resistance at the long, so not a great um, not a great opportunity to get into that short. If I look at um, so then keep in mind this week we have the Fed meeting on Wednesday, so that might make things a little bit dicey. And a lot of the times you'll see us kind of stay fairly balanced until the meeting announcement Wednesday afternoon. So not a huge surprise that we've come down and uh, essentially filled the gap that we started the day with. Um, One thing I wanted to note, I had some questions about the NQ in after last week's Masterclass. And if you look at the same low to high of the day on the NQ, we're actually holding its halfway back long. So relatively strong compared to the ES, haven't even come close to filling its gap. And then I am using for the NQ, a 4-point stop. You could 4 to 5 points is going to be the equivalent. 5 points being $100 per contract, and then with the ES, 2 points being $100, that would be the equivalent. So if you are trading the NQ, 4 points is a good stop number. Just keep in mind that the NQ is a little bit like the YM in that the trade ladder, the dome, moves very fast, and so sometimes it can be a little bit hard to grab your price and move your orders around. So just be careful as you're trading the NQ. Sometimes things can really jump around, and you just got to be on top of it a little bit more. Another question I had from last week's uh, the masterclass last week, which I'll put a link to below the video. With the for those that are going through the or interested in going through the Top Step Trader program, I would recommend doing the $100,000 account from the get-go because if you do become funded, you know you can start with as little as a 30,000 account to pass the combine, but the account that you finish with is what you then start in the live environment. So, you know, $30,000 isn't really that much money relative to what you can do with um, futures trading in a $100,000 account. So I would start with that one and then go through the combine process and then come out the other end with a lot more capital at your disposal. Okay, I wanted to run through the swing trades here. Pull up my list. So we've got the first one is Autodesk, and this one made a bit of a sell-off on the gap up back here, but then has since made up for that. This was just a long, actually, well, there were a couple opportunities um, long above this little ascending triangle, if you will. So the market was rising like so, and so I just entered long above on a break with my stop below the swing low. We actually came down pretty close but didn't break it, and then are off and running again today. Home Depot is another one, long above the high of this little dragonfly doji candle here, uh, looking okay. It's sort of at the bottom of its support range, if you will. So looking to see if we can kind of drift back up towards the top of the range. MMSI is another one, and this one had a nice long entry back here. Actually, the entry would be on the 20th. The signal bar was the 19th, and then another breakout above this consolidation box, if you will, like that. So both good entries there, and starting to pull back today. I mean, it had a little bit of a pullback. The bull flag was looking really nice, and then pulling back. Currently, uh, stop below the swing low here. So we'll see if that holds today or if it gets taken out. And then the last one is that Aqua that had a nice long above this same kind of dragonfly doji here. Took a little off when we broke below the low of the high bar on the 27th. And then we had this gap down, and so I put my stop below the low of that day, and we've just sort of drifted in this week of inside bars, a little more than a week. And so, if it gets taken out, whatever at this point, just looking for it to kind of pitter itself out. If it ends up moving higher, great, but you can kind of see the downward channel that it's sitting in. I actually took off, if we go to the SPY, I took off my hedge at the close, or on Friday, um, when we came down to the support level here. So, we have a very strong level of support because we've got these three highs that were acting as strong resistance, somewhat strong resistance. Um, and so as we came down to that level, felt like we had pretty strong support and a lot of potential news and sentiment to be able to lift us higher. Now, we have an expiration here on Friday, the 18th. So with the Fed meeting on Wednesday, if you want what I'm will likely be doing here is putting on a hedge in the SPY by buying puts, and I'll use the December contract because of that Fed meeting on Wednesday. So the thought being um, getting into the position ahead of the Fed meeting and then closing it out the day after the Fed meeting. And so using the Decembers for that, I may also buy some Januaries as well, but those Decembers are going to be super cheap, and it's really just a hedge uh, through the meeting. So if you want to get the Januaries, just to hedge if in case we go down a little further, you could draw up the next retracement like this, and like so, and see, we could see a move down to the 50% level, in which case, probably not going to happen in by the end of this week. So you're going to need the Januaries for that, but the Decembers are going to be dirt cheap. And with that Fed meeting, that is something that I've done in the past, where the meeting has fallen on the week of expiration and come out pretty well off because the contracts are so cheap. But and then if nothing happens, or let's say we go up from the Fed meeting, well, the contracts were so cheap that they're basically costing you nothing. So I think that's all I have for you today. Tomorrow morning, you can tune into the live trading session over at emoneymind.com/VIP. I hope everyone has a great week, and we will talk to you soon.